SleepTech Talk is sponsored by React Health. Within our Luna PAP device line, each offering is FDA approved, encompassing CPAP, APAP, bilevel, and bilevel ST models. Our thoughtfully selected array of PAP interfaces and accessories complement our Luna PAP device line while accommodating diverse patient requirements.
All right, it's time for another episode, and you know what that means. It's time for some pre-cals. What is going on today?
Well, Jerry, we are really fortunate today to have one of our sponsors, one of our early sponsors, as a matter of fact, React Health, the CEO, Bill Shoop, and CMO, Dr. Colleen Lance on. And, Colleen's been a friend of ours for a long time, so this is exciting to have both of them on today.
We got
Early
industry
sponsors.
legends on today.
Exactly.
Big time.
They were definitely early sponsors, but at the same time, they're not the same company that they were when they started sponsoring us, right?
Not at all. It's interesting because I have been, I was a part of being a customer of React Health pretty early on. And at one point it was sort of, hey, whatever you can ship us, we will take it. We can get a patient on a CPAP device. But my goodness, they've come from, you never know what's coming in on a shipment or on a specific pallet to, now they have a, industry leading technology with foam-free, a foam-free device with a new auto algorithm. It's a pretty amazing evolution for them.
This is so exciting. Shall we just get on to the show then?
Let's do it.
All right.
SleepTech Talk is brought to you by Fisher & Paykel. Fisher & Paykel Healthcare is a leader in CPAP mask design and innovation for over 20 years. Their unique technologies have benefited millions of OSA patients through their top CPAP masks. These advancements continue to further enhance patient experience and outcomes.
Lights out.
Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of SleepTech Talk, the sleep podcast, with your hosts and friends, Emerson Kerr, Robert Miller, and me, Dr. Gerald George Moneycrow. Folks, as you know, we always bring you the great guests, the greatest guests, and lots of fun on the show. And this time it's a really power-packed episode. But before we get started, I want to say a huge shout out to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for all the likes, all the subscriptions, and most importantly, thank you so much for sharing the show to everybody. We were just talking about this just before the show, that how much the Facebook page has grown. Thank you so much for that. Our LinkedIn page has grown so much, and the channel on YouTube has grown. Thank you so much for that. And a huge shout out to our sponsors. We couldn't do this without them, and thank you so much to our sponsors. Please, folks out there, be sure to check them out. With that being said, Emerson, what is going on today?
Well, Jerry, speaking of sponsors, we have React Health on today. Very exciting to have the CEO, Bill Shoop, and the CMO, Dr. Colleen Lance, joining us today. We want to talk to them about what's next in home respiratory care across CPAP, ventilation, oxygen, and their connected systems behind it. So it's very exciting. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lance and Bill. This is very exciting to have you on today. Bill, there's quite a story when it comes to React and where you're leading it. If you can, take us down the road a little bit on maybe the origin of React and where it is today, and give our audience a picture of what React looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Emerson, and thanks to Dr. Mann and Robert. We really appreciate you guys having us on, and all that you do for the sleep and respiratory care industry as well. It's a great platform and a great voice. So a little bit about React Health. A bit of an interesting origin story. We're a little bit over 4 years old now. Started out with just trying to solve a problem that had occurred when, Philips had their issues and recalled 5.3 million devices. So, the initial investors had bought the distribution rights from 3B Medical to try to bring PAP devices into the U.S. To support HMEs and help those patients that were suffering from sleep disordered breathing and couldn't get devices. Because if you recall, at that time, not only did Philips have their issues and have to recall all of those devices, but ResMed was having a chip shortage and could probably only fill 70-75% of their historical demand as well. So our goal has really and truly been to continue that journey in helping HMEs serve patients better. We want to create a more frictionless solution using technology, using partnerships and integrations to create a better experience for HMEs as well as the patients that we both serve. So, over time, we made a number of other investments in the first 2 years of React Health, buying the IP from DeVilbiss, Invicare's respiratory care business. We got into diagnostics. We bought Ventec Life Systems, which is an incredible story all in itself. And so we bought 8 companies in about 18 months. I came on board almost 2 years ago, and it's been a really exciting journey as we continue to build out kind of our portfolio, to build out our platform, and continue to make investments in the industry once again, so we can help HMEs, grow their business and serve more patients. So I'll stop there. I could go on just on that topic for the rest of the hour, but I'm pretty sure we want to move on to other subjects. So,
well, speaking of investments, you guys brought in Dr. Colleen Lance, and Dr. Lance has been a friend of ours for a very long time. So, Dr. Lance, as you've come into React and been a part of the family there and the team, what sort of innovations are you directing as the Chief Medical Officer as you look forward into the future with React?
Well, it's really about developing an ecosystem, and not just about taking care of basic obstructive sleep apnea, but being able to take care of the most complex patient population possible. So I think you probably remember my niche has always been in non-invasive ventilation and taking care of complex sleep disordered breathing. So being able to care for patients from obstructive sleep apnea all the way through the most complex of neuromuscular disease, that's what I thought was so fascinating about React. Was we had within our portfolio everything to take care of those patients, from CPAP all the way through 5 different configurations of ventilators, oxygen, and masks. But even more so than that is bringing up React Health Connect. That was always, looking at the connectivity was always a deciding factor for me and who I partnered with from a manufacturer. And being able to delve into that data on a day-to-day basis with patients is key. And when I saw what Greg Polis's team is doing with React Health Connect, that's where the most exciting work has been done.
I know that we're sort of talking about innovation right now, but I really feel like there's been amazing evolution where a lot of manufacturers, it takes years to be able to evolve a product and a service, and that may be one product and one service, but React Health has been able to do it on multiple fronts, and from software to hardware and all of the things that touch patients and ultimately provide better care for DME companies. Can one of you talk a little bit about the evolution of the products and the services, and how you've been able to, I would say, accelerate that at React?
Yeah, I'll start, and then Colleen, if you want to kind of layer in. But Robert, thanks for the question, and I think evolution is the perfect word as well, because it's not a destination; it's a continual evolution. Our business, the industry, the patients that we serve continues to evolve. The models themselves continue to evolve, and if we can't continue to evolve with it, and as you said, one of our competitive advantages is that we've got to be nimble. We're a small organization that doesn't have a lot of layers of bureaucracy. Some people call that management. I'll probably call it bureaucracy. So we can make decisions quick, and we can iterate on those decisions as well. And React Health Connect is certainly one of them. The early days of iCode Connect, and what that solution was when it was 3B, didn't meet the market need. And we recognized that, we iterated on it, and we developed React Health Connect and React Health Plus. Just in 2025 or 2024 alone, we had 33 different releases of React Health Connect that made improvements to the product. These aren't bug fixes that we were talking about. These were feature enhancements that we were making. So, what I like to say is if you haven't seen React Health in the last 12 months, you don't really know React Health. And it's a core part of who we are, is being able to continue to evolve, being able to continue to iterate on our products, our services, and our solutions. And we're certainly excited about the sleep platform. We're very excited about the vent. And as you've seen with G3X bringing the first foam-free device with a 5-year warranty to market, once again, it's how do we help the industry and the patients that we both serve?
Well, and on the G3X side of things, I mean, for me, I love being on the steep end of the learning curve, which I am daily here at React. At G3X alone, watching to see how they shrunk down the size of that motor and were able to take the foam out of the device. I think this group knows how intimately I was acquainted with the recall and the pain of that, being in a system where we had 17,000 of our own devices were affected and patients with that. And we suspect upwards of 34,000 when we looked at our regional HMEs that we interacted with. So being able to address a concern while keeping a motor quiet on a PAP was truly innovative. And then being transparent about our algorithm, and we recently put a white paper on our website proving the efficacy of the device, as well as being able to deliver effective care at lower pressures by being able to make micro adjustments on that device to deliver a more comfortable therapeutic option.
Well, Doc, thank you so much for that. Let's talk about that a little bit more, the evolution of the PAP and into the G3X. I mean, I was at one point working for a company that actually made the foam that went into these CPAPs, and to be able to create something that was so revolutionary, that a quiet machine with no sound absorption foam in it, it's absolutely amazing. On top of that, you put a newer algorithm to be able to provide effective therapy for patients at a more comfortable level. Could you talk about that evolution and how we got there and what that means to the patients today?
Well, on the sound abatement side of things, it was being able to shrink that motor down, make it smaller, and so it would be quieter, and a honeycombing effect on the inside of the materials that help blunt the sound. And then as far as how the device itself works, it has to do with the detection, this rolling 32 breath detection system, and being able to make micro adjustments breath by breath. There's actually 2 distinct algorithms for the device, both for apneas and for flow limitation breaths. And being able to make very tiny adjustments in the moment for the patient allows you to deliver just what they need at the right point in time.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's the new tagline, but you could use this from a marketing perspective if you need to. But, innovation, evolution equals revolution, right?
I like it. I like it, Robert.
I was just going to say that is good, but Bill, if you could add a little color to that as well, please, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, look, first let me also, and I should have probably started at the beginning with this. We're incredibly fortunate at React Health to have Dr. Lance as our Chief Medical Officer. Not only is she, somebody that rolls up her sleeves, gets her hands dirty, and is really a part of the organization, but she's also she was a practicing sleep physician. So when she comes to, the conversation, she's not coming to it from just an academic place, but she's coming from it from a real world experience place, which is so important. And what's been what I've experienced in my 2 years here is our partnerships that we have, the manufacturing that we do. We employ over 70 engineers on staff. Over a third of our employees are engineers that are looking at how do we build better products. And, from the platform, that we talked about earlier with React Health Connect and React Health Plus, but also, how do we help with design inputs on the therapeutic products, from ventilators to sleep to oxygen concentrators. And once again, it becomes really kind of a rewarding experience when the inputs that you have get implemented and executed and then deliver value in the market. That's probably about as rewarding of an experience as you can have. Is I saw a problem, I helped design something to solve that problem, I executed on that, and it delivered value to patients and the customers in the industry. That's a really cool experience, and that's what we've had over the last 2 years and want to continue to do. So,
Well, and
go ahead.
Research and development is 4 miles from my house here in Columbus, Ohio, which means that I get to go over there and have fun and play with the knobs and buttons and how things look and hopefully have a say in how things are. So that's been a lot of fun too.
Hey, that's cool because, like Bill said, you were a practicing sleep physician, so you know exactly what feels good, what doesn't feel good for the patient. So that is awesome. And talking about that sort of thing, could you folks talk about the evolution of the mask? I mean, you talked about design, innovation, and inputs from the people because you know what actually patients are using. And we've seen some new masks come across in the marketplace, which was very much needed. We needed new innovation. We needed new products. Could you talk a little bit about how that has come about and what's available for the patients now?
SleepTech Talk is sponsored by React Health. Within our LunaPAP device line, each offering is FDA approved, encompassing CPAP, APAP, bilevel, and bilevel ST models. Our thoughtfully selected array of PAP interfaces and accessories complement our LunaPAP device line while accommodating diverse patient requirements.
Yeah, so I'll share a bit, and then Dr. Lance, if you want to add in. Once again, when I got here, I would tell you that our mask portfolio, well, it was solid. There were probably more masks that would be classified in that almost classic kind of framing. And we recognize that the patient interface is an incredibly important part of sleep therapy. It's the thing that people are putting on their face every single day. So it's not just how does the device deliver therapy, but how does the mask work? And also making sure that the technology that we bring to market fits into the reimbursement that's out there. Building masks that people can't afford or don't fit into reimbursement doesn't work for home care companies, and in many cases doesn't work for many patients as well. So we've got a real roadmap of masks, and we're very excited about the masks that are coming out in 2026. I think we've made real progress with the Rio 2 full face mask and the Rio 2 nasal mask. The nasal pillows mask, the Rio, has been a strong mask for us all along, and we're really excited about what's coming in 2026.
And it's the continual feedback that we get from providers and patients and going back and reworking what we found. I remember being part of the Rio 2 when it first came out, and there were some things we wanted to change, and how we were able to rapidly recognize how we needed to change things and how that occurred. Was really excited to be part of that innovation.
Well, along with what you guys are doing with sleep, ventilation is a big part of it. All of the respiratory care is another big part of your business. So, Bill, can you kind of give us a picture of that, especially for our sleep folks that aren't maybe not as familiar with what you do in the respiratory care side? What does ventilation look like for React?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting journey, and probably one of the best examples of what we had talked about earlier of our evolution. When we bought Ventec, and Ventec was a really interesting company. Going back to the early days of COVID, this was the company that partnered with General Motors and the federal government to build 35,000 mechanical ventilators for the national stockpile. And, it's a really cool story that, they came in, they took a digital image of our manufacturing facility in Bothell, Washington, and within 1 month, completely replicated that facility in Kokomo, Indiana. And then we took a team, some of the people that still work for us today went to Kokomo and for 6 months lived there to build all these devices. So, that was during the first Trump administration and the early days of COVID. But where I think the vent business gets really interesting is, the Voxen device, the 5-in-1 device, was kind of it had no real home. It wasn't an ICU vent, and it wasn't a home care vent. And where React came in, and I think fresh eyes looking at what we needed was able to determine, wait a second, here's what we need to build is here's what a home care vent looks like, here's what it needs to be able to do, and here's the technology that we need to put into it. And that's where we built the V-Home device, which, over the last year, let me just finish the story. So, and then we continued to see, okay, what else do we need? We need auto EPAP. So we put auto EPAP into the device. Oh, we need a standby mode. And it was all feedback, as Dr. Lance had just mentioned, feedback from the field, feedback from customers and from patients, telling us, here are some of the other things that would make this thing better. And it's not this long drawn out process of, should we do that? Should we not do it? It was, 2 or 3 people saying, can we do it? Is the right thing to do? What value does it bring to the industry and the patients that we serve? Let's go. And we just get shit done. And and so that, once again, you can see that in the evolution of the V-Home device is, we got feedback, we implemented the feedback, we put that into the device, and we're now, when you look at it from a percentages standpoint, the #1 home care vent in the market. And so, it's a big part of our business. And when you look at it from a platform standpoint, and React Health Connect, we're now, and with the new NCD, collecting patient information and monitoring patient compliance is so much more important now. And we have the ability to do that. And we can do it in one system as well, which is what gets really, really exciting as we move forward. It's once again, what are the problems in the market? How can we help be a solution and not a hindrance? And then let's do it.
Fisher & Paykel Solo is the world's first auto-fit CPAP mask. It simplifies setup with its revolutionary auto-lock technology. Simply stretch to fit, touch to adjust. Go to fphcare.com/solo.
Hey, Bill, I know that, from an innovation standpoint, it is fantastic, even how that product has evolved for you guys and the fact that you have this connected, point of care. It seems like, and I know that in our healthcare world, it's all about creating this connected care ecosystem, and you certainly are doing that with the most vulnerable patient population.
Well, and the other thing that I find very exciting, just from a person who's taking care of complex patients for ages, being able to have something across their disease history, across their story, if you will. And many people don't realize, when I get out there and talk with providers, that we have bi-level devices, and our 30VT is a bi-level ST that also has tidal volume. So we're able to fit into that RAD space, and being able to have those patients all on the same platform and stay with them on their journey. Like we see so many patients with COPD and overlap syndrome, they end up starting on CPAP somewhere, then getting oxygen added in, and then end up migrating through the system. We have them covered from stem to stern, if you will, and being able to work and show that smooth process with really those RAD devices being the bridge to ventilation when needed, and that continual improvement. Another thing that we do is when we're at the medical societies and working with our KOLs, hearing what they need on the reports. Because ventilation, for the most part, there hasn't been a whole lot of standardization on that front. But we've been very active in standardizing what our reporting looks like to make things easier for the HME and the providers.
Sorry for the awkward silence there. So Doc, appreciate that. Now, if you could talk a little bit more about that continuity of care and give us an overview of what's going on the oxygen side, because I think that well fits in with this conversation of ventilation and respiratory and taking care of such patients.
Right, and being able to offer one-stop shopping, if you will, and solutions for particularly HMEs, and being able to have all the resources that they need for the pulmonary patients. So between our brand new Phoenix 5 liter, we've got a 10 liter, we've got our home bill system, and just anything that a patient would need from an oxygen standpoint, the ventilators with capability on high flow O2, and then the only one on the market with cough assist built into the ventilator. So we are just out there trying to make things as seamless as possible. And, how can we keep patients mobile and functional in their lives?
Well, I want to say this before we get to the end of the show here, but at least for me in the podcast, we are extremely appreciative of the support of React Health. But more importantly, as an industry, React Health could certainly pick and choose what conferences and what things that you support as a company. But I think you've done it at a scale that's pretty amazing for a small company. So from the industry, thank you very much for all that React Health does.
I would have to second that. We see you all everywhere, and you support us as an industry. The sleep technologists do see that, and I know as a small company, it's tough to get out there and be everywhere. That's not an easy task, and with the limited number of people that you have, yet you're doing your very best to do that, and we sincerely appreciate it. And here at SleepTech Talk, we can't thank you enough for the sponsorship, allowing us to do what we do and continue to grow and get the voice out there. But
you are our partners.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate it. Building a brand is not an easy thing, and it's a lot of blocking and tackling and making sure that we're telling our story. And so we appreciate the opportunity to come on your show and tell the story. Robert, when you started asking a little bit about technology, I thought you were going to ask a little bit about, all of the services that we provide. I thought you were going to ask a little bit about, data and data ownership. And, one of the things that I think truly differentiates us, and I'm sorry for asking my own question.
No, it's perfect. I was just about to ask that, Bill.
But one of the things that I do think differentiates us, and we look at it as an enabler, not something that is value decretive, but we look at the data it's the patient's data, whether it's coming off the vent or coming off of the PAP device. It's the patient's data. Home care companies are kind of the caretakers of that data and need to be. Physicians need the data to make good clinical decisions. But when we look at it, we also don't think we need to jam everybody into our own, solution, our own gilded cage. If it's easier for a home care company or easier for a physician to work in their own system, we'll give you the APIs. to do it, because the value is not created in holding the data ransom. The value is created by making it available, allowing those that are experts out there in all of the different things, and innovators out there in all of the different ways to help better manage patients. If there's people that are better at it than us, then we should make that data available so that it can be used. And because once again, it's about creating a more frictionless patient experience, and the value creation to React will come from that. It won't come because of that. Does that make sense, the way I said that?
It definitely does. And
Yeah.
I was just going to ask Dr. Lance, you've been dealing with this kind of data forever. So if you could talk a little bit more of that, of the value that it brings to the clinicians.
Well, I have had some rather deep discussions with people on this podcast about ownership of data, and how at the end of the day, Emerson's smiling because yes, we've had a lot of ways trying to strategize what could we do about this concept of ownership of data. It's the patients, and we're the guardians, and we're here to make sure that they have a frictionless experience, and also to provide tools that help guide. That's why with React Health Plus, we now have communications without advertisements, I might add, that go to patients with information from sleep coaches to help them in the experience that they are having. So at the end of the day, it's the patients with us as the guardians.
I love it. In fact, I used a slide where I had the image of a lifeguard on duty as they are monitoring patients who are on PAP therapy in a presentation.
That's excellent. I love that, Robert.
Yeah.
He needs to put Guardians of the Galaxy. He needs to change
Oh, yes.
because he's hooked on a feeling. But hey, folks, we are out of time here, and it's been an amazing, amazing discussion. Anything, Dr. Lance, Bill, that you want to add before we close?
I'm going to say stay tuned and watch where we are going.
Yeah, no, I would say the same thing. If you haven't talked to anybody from React in a while, you don't really know React. We're a scrappy group, I will tell you. But we're here to compete, and we're here to stay, and we're here to help. And so really excited about the opportunities and the gains that we made in 2025, and really excited about the opportunity ahead in 2026. So appreciate it. Thanks for having us on the show. And thanks for doing what you do to continue to build awareness around the sleep industry.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Dr. Lance. We really appreciate you joining the show. And folks out there, thank you all so much for joining us. Once again, thank you so much for the likes, for the subscriptions, and most importantly, the shares. And be sure, if you have any thoughts or ideas, be sure to put your thoughts in the comments below. And we will have more information in the show notes as well for everybody to get in touch with React Health and what's going on. And a huge shout out to our sponsors, especially React Health. And thank you for joining us on the show today once again. And until next time, we say lights on.
Be sure to check out our clinical sponsor, Sleep Review Magazine. More details in show notes.
Now that was quite a show, really power-packed. It's time for some post-cals. What do you guys think?
Well, you know what? The thing, Robert said this in the pre-cals, and that is this is not the same company that it was, especially even when they started sponsoring us. They're so different. One of the things I want to just say a thank you to them for that I didn't do while we had them is their investment in sleep technology and sleep techs. As AST president, I just can't be more grateful for their focus on the state meetings, the regional meetings, everything that they do for sleep techs. And we appreciate their support here, but I appreciate their support for sleep techs and focusing on that ongoing education that really elevates our field.
Emerson, I completely agree. And I've tried to be the industry representative, during their time on the show and give them a personal thank you because, they could certainly pick and choose. And we've seen other vendors pull back in their sponsorship of certain things. So, React Health has sort of dove in and become filled the void that was left with, there are other manufacturers who are no longer, really present in that space.
All I want to say is to all our listeners out there, please, if you haven't seen or checked out React Health in the recent months or weeks for that matter, please be sure to do that ASAP, because it is a very different company right now with really strong innovation. That's all I have to say.
No, I think the show has summed it up itself. I mean, we had two great guests with a great company, and we're very grateful for them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, folks out there, until next time, cheers.